You expect me to believe that? The judge scoffed, his voice cutting through the tense courtroom like a knife. Special forces? That's rich. The boy stood still in the middle of the small juvenile courtroom, his fists balled at his sides. He was 12. His sneakers were scuffed, his hoodie too thin for the cold, but his eyes didn't waver. His name was Isaiah, and everyone in the room had already decided he was a liar. Everyone, except maybe his mom, who sat behind him with worry written across her face like a bruise. Judge Reynolds leaned forward, adjusting his glasses like he was reading the boy's soul, and finding it lacking. Your dad's in special forces? Please. Do you even know what that means, son? A chuckle floated through the courtroom, an officer trying to hide it behind his hand, a lawyer smirking. The judge didn't stop it. He liked the sound. He liked making people feel small, especially people like Isaiah. Isaiah's face burned. He is, he said quietly. He told me not to say where, but he's coming. The judge leaned back, amused. Oh, he's coming, is he? Maybe he'll parachute through the roof. Huh? We'll be waiting. Just then, the back door to the courtroom opened. Not loudly, not with drama, just a click and a creak. But the moment the man stepped in, the air shifted. Everything changed. He was tall, broad, boots thick with red dust, black tactical jacket, a calm, unreadable face that carried storms in its silence. He didn't look around like he was lost or nervous. He didn't stop to ask permission. He walked down the aisle straight toward the judge like he'd done it 1,000 times in countries no one dared speak of. And everyone froze. The judge blinked. An officer stood up without realizing he had. Isaiah's eyes widened, not in surprise, but in relief. Dad, he whispered. The judge's face twisted, confused. And you are? The man pulled something out of his jacket slowly, an ID, dark green, with a symbol that made the bailiff step back a full foot. I'm the man whose son you laughed at, he said, voice low and steady. And now you're going to listen. And that's when everything began to fall apart in that courtroom, faster than anyone could stop it. But to understand why that moment exploded the way it did, you need to know what happened before that day. What led a 12-year-old black boy to stand alone in front of a judge, getting laughed at for telling the truth. And why his mom had nearly given up hope before that door opened. It started 4 weeks earlier, at Jefferson Middle School, a place where nobody really saw kids like Isaiah, unless they were in trouble. Isaiah had been sitting in math class when the teacher, Ms. Green, got called out for a phone call. She never came back. That's when the new kid, Brandon, decided it was the perfect time to start trouble. Brandon came from one of the wealthier neighborhoods. His dad owned 4-car dealerships and liked to brag about it at every PTA meeting. Hey, Isaiah, Brandon said loudly from the back. How come your clothes always smell like fried chicken? Your mom cook at Popeyes or something? A few kids snickered. Isaiah didn't turn around. She's a nurse, he said quietly. Yeah, right. Nurse of the KFC kitchen. More laughs. Or maybe your dad's one of those guys who left. What's the stat? What is it, 70%? No, Dad. Isaiah stood up slowly. Some kids started whispering. Not because they were scared, because they were hoping for a fight. Isaiah's voice didn't shake. My dad's in the Army. Special Forces. Brandon burst out laughing. Man, please. Your dad's not even in your life. He is. He just can't say where he is right now. Brandon walked up to him, towering over him. You just made that up. You just don't want to admit he's gone. And then Isaiah snapped. He shoved Brandon. Hard. That's when the classroom door opened again. And of course it was the vice principal. Isaiah got suspended. Brandon got a handshake and a wink. Isaiah's mom, Tara, showed up 10 minutes later in scrubs, her hospital badge still clipped to her collar. Her hands trembled the whole time she signed the suspension papers. She didn't argue. She just kept repeating, we can't afford this. Not again. Not again. Back at home, Isaiah sat on the front steps, hoodie pulled over his head, trying not to cry. His mom sat beside him, exhausted. Why'd you push him? She asked gently. He shrugged. Isaiah. He said Dad wasn't real. Tara sighed. You know how it looks when you fight. Doesn't matter why. All they see is another angry black boy. But it's true, Isaiah said. Dad is in the Army. He said I could tell people now. Why don't they believe me? She didn't answer. Because she knew why. And that truth hurt more than any shove. 3 days later, Isaiah still hadn't gone back to school. That's when 2 officers showed up at their door, said something about vandalism at Brandon's house, and that Isaiah had been seen near the area. It didn't matter that he'd been home. It didn't matter there was no proof. The court date was set, and nobody seemed to care that the whole story didn't add up. That's how they ended up in front of Judge Reynolds. That's how Isaiah got laughed at for telling the truth. That's how Tara sat shaking in the back of the courtroom, wondering if her baby was about to be taken away. And that's how the door opened. Isaiah's father stepped through, and with him, everything began to shift. The air, the silence, the truth. But just as Isaiah felt hope crawl back into his chest, just as his mother began to breathe again, the man who followed Isaiah's father through that same door didn't wear a uniform. He wore a suit, and he was holding a sealed file. His eyes were locked on the judge, and the moment he spoke, everything exploded. Judge Reynolds, the man in the suit said, calm as a surgeon, voice sharp enough to slice the room in half. We need to speak. Privately. Now. Judge Reynolds squinted at the man, clearly irritated by the interruption, still trying to look in control even though his eyes kept flicking nervously toward Isaiah's father, who hadn't said another word. And you are? The judge asked, impatient. The man held up a badge. Not police. Not FBI. It was something else. Something different. The bailiff's face turned pale the second he saw it. He reached toward the judge and whispered something in his ear, quickly. Reynolds' face stiffened. Isaiah, still frozen near the defendant's table, could barely understand what was happening. His mom had stood up, one hand on the bench in front of her like she was afraid the floor would fall out from under her. The man in the suit handed the judge the sealed file. This can't wait. The judge hesitated, clearly weighing his options, but then stood up. Court is in recess, he barked, and practically bolted toward his chambers with the mystery man right behind him. As the heavy doors swung closed behind them, silence flooded the room. No one moved. Not the bailiff. Not the clerk. Not even Brandon's smirking father, who'd come just to watch the hearing. And then, Isaiah's dad finally spoke. He didn't shout. He didn't look angry. He just stepped forward, locked eyes with the bailiff, and said, "Let the boy sit down." The bailiff nodded, and pulled the chair out like Isaiah was royalty. Isaiah sat. He didn't understand what was happening, not all the way. But he knew this much. His father wasn't just in the army. He was someone important. And people in this room, grown men, white men with power, were afraid of him. Tara approached slowly. You got here fast. His father turned toward her, softer now. He called me, he said. Said he needed me. That was all I needed to hear. She looked like she wanted to cry, but didn't. Not here. What happens now? She asked. Before he could answer, the doors to the judge's chambers slammed open again. Reynolds stumbled out, his face flushed, holding the file like it was on fire. The man in the suit followed calmly behind him. The judge didn't even look at Isaiah, didn't look at anyone. He cleared his throat, shuffled some papers, and then said the words that made the whole room tilt. This hearing is dismissed. The charges are dropped. The record is sealed. Permanently. Brandon's dad jumped to his feet. What? You can't, my son. You may leave, the judge snapped. Brandon's dad looked like he was about to explode. This boy pushed my son. He broke school rules. And then he vandalized my property. The judge didn't answer. But the man in the suit stepped forward, his voice cool and final. Mr. Keller, he said to Brandon's dad, if you have further complaints, I recommend you take them up with the Department of Defense's Office of Special Activities. Keller blinked. What? The man leaned in slightly. You just tried to publicly smear the child of a Tier 1 operative. Not smart. Keller's face turned an ugly shade of purple, but he didn't say another word. He turned, grabbed Brandon, who'd been watching the whole thing with wide, silent eyes, and stormed out. The courtroom slowly emptied after that, but the questions didn't. Isaiah's head was spinning. Dad, he whispered, what's going on? His father looked at him and knelt to his level. I told you before, he said. I can't always be there. But when I am there, I make sure no one touches you. Ever. Isaiah wanted to ask more. What Tier 1 meant, who the guy in the suit was, why the judge looked like he'd seen a ghost. But he couldn't get the words out. His dad stood up again and nodded toward Tara. Let's go home. But the day wasn't over. Because just as they stepped outside, they saw the news vans. 3 of them. Parked along the curb, cameras rolling, microphones ready. Someone had tipped them off. Tara gasped and tried to shield Isaiah. Isaiah's dad didn't flinch. He scanned the crowd, spotted the reporter, and walked forward. Sir, one of the reporters shouted, camera flashing. Can you comment on what happened in court today? Are you affiliated with a classified military program? He didn't answer. Is it true your son was falsely accused? Still nothing. Is the government getting involved? Isaiah looked up at his mom. Why are they here? Because they smell blood, she said bitterly. That's what they do. Just then, a fourth car pulled up, black, unmarked, with windows so tinted you couldn't see inside. It stopped directly in front of them. The door opened. The man in the suit got out again. He looked at Isaiah's father. They know, he said. We have a leak. Isaiah's dad's jaw clenched. How bad? The man didn't answer. He just handed him a phone. It's her. Isaiah's dad looked at Tara. Get Isaiah in the car. Don't let him out of your sight. What's going on? She asked, voice shaky now. Just get in. Then he turned and walked down the street, phone to his ear, disappearing into the noise of the reporters and the rush of wind. Tara grabbed Isaiah's hand. But Isaiah looked back, watching his father vanish. And for the first time in his life, he didn't just feel proud. He felt scared, because he could tell something had just started. Something big. And it wasn't over yet. Not even close. Later that night, after they made it home safely, Tara sat in the living room with all the lights off, just staring at the wall. Isaiah came in, quiet. Mom. She looked up, startled. You okay? She pulled him close. I don't know. Isaiah hesitated. Is Dad in trouble? Her arms tightened around him. I think someone else might be. He frowned. Who? But before she could answer, the front window shattered. Glass flew everywhere. Tara screamed and pulled Isaiah to the floor as a small canister bounced across the floor, releasing smoke. Isaiah coughed, choking. Through the smoke, shadows moved outside. Someone was coming. Tara shoved Isaiah toward the hallway, her voice hoarse and trembling. Go. Get to the back room, now. He coughed hard, eyes burning from the smoke. Mom, what's happening? Don't ask, run. Isaiah didn't argue. He scrambled toward the back of the house, stumbling past the kitchen table, knocking over a chair. The smoke filled his lungs like fire. Behind him, he could hear Tara moving fast, dragging a cabinet, slamming it against the front door. There were voices outside. Footsteps. Then, a loud bang. Someone trying the door. Another bang. A crack. They were trying to break it down. Tara turned and raced down the hall after Isaiah, barely able to see. She slammed the bedroom door behind them and flipped open the closet. She reached up, high above the hangers, and grabbed a black metal box Isaiah had never seen before. Inside were three things. A phone with no labels. A folded paper with a single code on it. And a gun. Tara snatched the phone, punched in a code from memory, and pressed one button. A soft tone rang out. No ringtone. No dialing. Just silence. Then, click. Authorization, a voice said, calm and robotic. Tara didn't blink. Delta Echo 7. Red light protocol. Hostile entry confirmed. Children present. There was a pause. Then the voice replied, help is on the way. ETA 4 minutes. Do not engage. She dropped the phone and pulled Isaiah close, wrapping herself around him. Is it Dad? He asked, eyes wide with fear. No, she said. It's someone looking for him. From outside the room came a crash. They were inside the house now. Boots. Heavy. Multiple people. Isaiah could hear the faint voices, too muffled to understand, but close. They were moving room to room. Don't make a sound, Tara whispered. No matter what. He nodded, barely breathing. The sound of glass crunching under boots came closer. Closer. Then, the footsteps stopped. Right outside the bedroom. Tara held her breath. The knob twisted. Locked. A pause. Then boom. The door cracked off its hinges. A dark figure in black tactical gear stepped into the doorway, holding a small rifle with a red dot scanning the room. Not military. No flags. No unit badge. Just cold precision. He stepped in, scanning left, then right. And that's when the entire house seemed to explode with light and sound. A window shattered behind him. A flashbang dropped into the hallway. Boom. The man dropped like a rag doll, his gun skidding across the floor. More boots stormed in. This time, real military. Not local police. Not FBI. Black helmets. Visors. They moved fast. Clean. One of them reached the room, spotted Tara and Isaiah in the corner, and held up a hand. Friendly, he called out. Secured. Repeat. Room secured. Tara let out a long, broken breath and collapsed to the floor, still holding Isaiah tight. The soldier moved closer, then spoke into his mic, Echo 1, Package is intact. Seconds later, another man entered the room. Isaiah's heart stopped. Dad. His father nodded once, eyes scanning the corners of the room like a hawk. You're safe. Tara looked up, stunned. How did you get here so fast? He crouched next to her. The call came through the back channel. I was already tracking them. I just didn't know they'd move this soon. Isaiah blinked. Who were they? His dad's face darkened. They're not military. They're not even legal. Someone's after something they think I know. What? Isaiah asked. What do you know? His father looked down at him, long and hard. Then he stood, turning to one of the other soldiers. We need to move. Tara struggled to her feet. Move where? Safe house. Tonight. But my job, his school. They just broke into your home. Tara, he said, gently but firmly. You think this ends here? She was quiet. Isaiah looked back at the shattered glass on the floor, the smoke still lingering in the hallway. The man who'd fallen face first at the bedroom entrance. He knew his life wasn't going back to normal after this. Not now. Not ever. As they were escorted out through the back, Isaiah watched the neighborhood lights flicker in the distance. Kids in pajamas peeking out windows. Police sirens arriving too late. Reporters pushing past the caution tape out front. None of them knew the full story. None of them could. And just as the armored vehicle started to drive away, Isaiah asked, Dad, what did they want? His father didn't answer at first. But finally, he looked at his son and said, something I buried a long time ago, and they just figured out it exists. Isaiah's eyes widened. What is it? His dad didn't say. But outside the vehicle, trailing behind them in a beat-up sedan, another figure watched them go. He made a call. They're moving. I see the boy. A voice on the other end growled. Do not lose him. The figure nodded, turned the wheel, and followed them into the night. The safe house looked nothing like Isaiah expected. It wasn't some underground bunker or secret lair carved into a mountain. It was a small white house with green shutters, sitting at the edge of an old, quiet neighborhood surrounded by thick woods. Nothing fancy. Nothing that screamed, top secret. But that was the point. The soldier driving the armored SUV didn't speak much. Just kept his eyes on the road and checked the rearview mirror every couple of seconds. Isaiah sat squished between his mom and dad in the back seat, holding Tara's hand so tight his fingers hurt. His other hand was clenched around the handle of his backpack. Inside were only 3 things: his phone, a sketchpad, and a photo of him and his dad fishing from 2 summers ago. When they pulled into the driveway, a woman in tactical gear was already waiting on the porch. She nodded once at Isaiah's dad. Everything's swept. We're green. Tara looked around. This is it. It's safe, his dad said. Safe doesn't feel very safe anymore, she replied quietly. They stepped inside. The air smelled like dust and old wood. There were cameras in every corner, small and blinking red, and a panel by the front door with more buttons than Isaiah had ever seen outside of a sci-fi movie. Isaiah's dad flipped a switch. All the windows darkened instantly. Not with curtains, electronically, like magic glass turning black. Whoa, Isaiah whispered. Tara turned to face him. I want you to stay near me at all times. You don't go anywhere alone. You don't talk to anyone who's not with your father's team. You understand? Isaiah nodded, his voice a whisper. Okay. For a few hours, it was just quiet. Too quiet. They ate crackers and canned soup in silence. Tara sat by the window, even though she couldn't see through the glass anymore. Isaiah sketched to keep from thinking too much, drew pictures of the soldier who'd saved them, gave him armor and a cape, made him a superhero. His dad, meanwhile, was in the other room behind a locked door, talking through an encrypted phone. The others on his team, 3 men and 2 women, kept watch around the house. One circled the yard every hour. Another stayed by the back door with her rifle never out of arm's reach. And just when Isaiah finally started to drift to sleep on the couch, the lights cut out. Instantly. No warning. No flicker. Just total darkness. Tara jumped to her feet. What happened? Get down, one of the soldiers ordered. Away from the windows. Isaiah's heart pounded as someone grabbed him and pulled him behind the couch. His mom was right next to him, shielding him again. Then, through the window, though it was still blacked out, they could see the flash. Like lightning, but too quick. Another flash. And then, outside the house. Voices. No, whispers. Dozens of them. No language Isaiah recognized. The soldier by the back door radioed in. Movement. West tree line. Heat signatures incoming. At least 7, No, wait. 8. Small and fast. Drones, someone asked. Negative. Too low. Too quiet. 2. Crash. A side window shattered. Something was thrown inside, not a flashbang this time. It was something small. Hissing. A soldier tackled it with a blanket, smothering the gas just in time. Another window blew out. Then another. They were surrounded. Breached. One of the women shouted. They're coming in. Isaiah's dad burst from the back room, fully geared up now. Vest, headset, sidearm. He grabbed Isaiah and Tara by the arms. Upstairs. Go. Now. What's happening? Tara cried. They tracked us. I don't know how. But they're here. Isaiah was halfway up the stairs when he saw it. A shadow darting across the yard outside. It didn't move like a person. It was too fast. Too gliding. And then the alarm started blaring. Red lights. Emergency, override. They're in the house, someone yelled. Tara pushed Isaiah ahead of her. Don't look back, baby, just run. They reached the top of the stairs, barreled into a room, slammed the door. His dad followed seconds later, locking the door behind them, punching codes into a hidden panel in the wall. The floor shifted under Isaiah's feet. A panel opened, a hidden trapdoor. You're getting out through the escape tunnel, his dad said, panting. It leads to the woods. 1 mile out, there's a pickup team waiting. No. Isaiah grabbed his arm. What about you? I'll stay behind. By time. You said you'd protect me. And I will. But right now, you protect your mom. That's your job now, son. Understand. Isaiah's chest felt like it would explode. Tara was shaking. I'm not leaving without you. You have to, he said. They're not here for me this time. They're here for him. Isaiah froze. Me? His dad looked him dead in the eyes. They know about you now. Before Isaiah could ask what that meant, the door downstairs blew open. Gunfire. Shouting. Screams. His dad shoved them into the trapdoor tunnel and closed it behind them, whispering just before it sealed. Run. And don't stop. The tunnel was dark and narrow. Dirt walls. Cool air. The only light came from emergency strips along the floor. Tara pulled Isaiah by the hand, and they ran. But Isaiah's mind raced faster than his feet. Why were they after him now? What did they want with a kid? And more importantly, what had his father never told him? Behind them, through the dirt and the dark, the tunnel echoed with faint thuds. They weren't alone. Someone was following, and they were getting closer. The tunnel twisted like a snake through the earth, dim red lights casting long shadows as Tara and Isaiah ran as fast as they could. The air was damp, the ground slick beneath their shoes, and with every step, the thuds behind them grew louder. Closer. Rhythmic. Not like running. More like crawling. Or slithering. Isaiah glanced over his shoulder, heart hammering. He couldn't see anything through the curve of the tunnel, but he could feel it. Whatever was behind them was fast, and it didn't sound human. Faster. Tara gasped, yanking his hand. They rounded another bend, nearly slipping on the damp dirt, when the red lights along the tunnel ceiling began to flicker. Then one went out. Then another. And another. Mom, Isaiah choked. I see it, she said, dragging him forward. A single green light appeared ahead, a signal light. Exit close. They sprinted harder. Behind them, the tunnel suddenly echoed with something horrible, a low, high-pitched screech. Metallic, like grinding steel and glass wrapped in a scream. Isaiah's blood turned cold. Tara shoved a metal latch on a thick door at the tunnel's end, punching in the code she'd memorized. Her hands shook. The keypad flashed red. Wrong code. She hissed. Tried again. The lights flickered again. A gust of cold air blew past them, from behind. The thing in the tunnel was getting closer. Isaiah felt it in his bones before he saw it. It wasn't like any animal or person he'd ever imagined. A long shape, too thin, moving wrong, like something built, not born. All shadow and wires and blinking eyes. And it was crawling toward them. Fast. Beep. The keypad flashed green. Tara yanked the door open. Go. They dove through. She slammed it shut behind them, just as the creature lunged. There was a clang of metal and a screech of frustration, but the door held. Heavy steel. Reinforced. They were safe, for the moment. Isaiah collapsed to the cold ground, panting. They were in a metal-walled chamber now, with another short tunnel ahead leading upward. The air here was fresher. He could hear wind at the other end. They built this for escapes, he asked, still gasping. His mom nodded. For him. In case everything went wrong. They crawled up the last stretch of tunnel and pushed open the exit hatch. They were outside. Dark woods surrounded them, trees stretching tall and close together. The sky was overcast, and the only light came from distant stars barely poking through. But there, parked near a cluster of trees, a black SUV idled quietly. Two men stood nearby, scanning the area with night vision goggles. The extraction team. Tara waved. Here. Over here. The agents ran toward them instantly, weapons ready but pointed down. One of them checked Isaiah over while the other scanned the area. We got them, one said into a shoulder mic. Package is secure. Repeat, secure. But before they could even start walking back, boom, the ground behind them shook. Isaiah turned just in time to see a plume of smoke burst from the escape hatch. The creature, or whatever it was, had forced the tunnel open. The agents didn't wait. Move. One grabbed Isaiah, lifting him with zero effort, and ran toward the vehicle. The other took Tara, helping her sprint through the tall grass. They dove into the SUV, and as the doors slammed shut behind them, the creature burst from the hatch. Only now, it wasn't alone. Two more followed. Sleek. Silent. Mechanical. Isaiah barely caught a full look, but what he saw was enough. Black armor plating. No face. Multiple arms. And a symbol on their sides, burned into the metal. Not from any country he'd ever seen. Not military. Private. They're deploying off-books assets, one of the agents muttered as they sped away. This isn't just surveillance. They're escalating. Who are they? Tara demanded. Why my son? The driver's voice was low. Because someone told them the truth. What truth? Isaiah asked. What do I have to do with this? Everyone went silent. Then, the older agent turned around to face Isaiah. You ever hear the name Project Eden? Isaiah shook his head slowly. The agent studied him. You should have never been born. But you were. Tara's face snapped toward him. Don't talk to him like that. I don't mean it like that, the agent said. I mean, they never thought he'd survive. Isaiah blinked. What are you talking about? The agent looked toward Tara, waiting. Tara sat frozen. Tara, Isaiah said. What's he talking about? She finally looked at him, eyes full of pain. I was supposed to lose you, she said, voice cracking. When I was pregnant, I got sick. Really sick. They said you wouldn't make it, that your DNA was damaged. But I did make it, Isaiah said. She nodded. We didn't understand why. But your father, he said it wasn't an accident. He said someone changed you. Isaiah's stomach flipped. Change me how? The agent leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. You were part of something. A medical experiment done without your mother's knowledge. A classified trial for genetic resilience. You were exposed to something in the womb. Something not from here. Tara gasped. That was never confirmed. But it's why they're after him now, the agent said. He survived, and they think he might be the only one who ever did. Isaiah's throat went dry. So they don't want me because of Dad? The agent shook his head. They want you, Isaiah. The SUV hit the highway, speeding into the night, every exit and sign blurring past them. Isaiah pressed his forehead to the glass, watching the trees vanish behind him. He thought of the creature in the tunnel, the red eyes, the whispers, the man on the phone saying, I see the boy. The leak didn't just tell them where to find Isaiah's dad. It told them Isaiah was alive. And whatever Project Eden was, they weren't done with him. Not even close. Isaiah didn't speak for the next hour. He just stared out the window, eyes locked on the darkness as the SUV sliced through the highway, headlights cutting through fog like a blade. Tara had fallen into a shaky, exhausted silence, holding his hand the whole time. She wouldn't let go. Maybe she was afraid that if she did, something would take him. The agent driving stayed quiet. But the one in the passenger seat, Agent Hill, the older man who'd said Isaiah shouldn't have been born, kept glancing at him through the rearview mirror. Not in fear, not in pity, in awe, like Isaiah was a walking miracle, or a ticking time bomb. They turned off the highway and followed a winding gravel road deep into what looked like a forest preserve. No houses, no lights, no traffic, just trees, endless trees. Finally, they came to a stop at a large metal gate surrounded by fencing so tall it nearly vanished into the trees above. The gate had no markings, no signs, just a scanner. Hill leaned out and held up his badge. A green light blinked once. The gate creaked open, slow and mechanical. They drove inside. Beyond the gate was a hidden facility, half buried under a hill. It looked like an old military base, except far too clean. High-tech. New. Isaiah had seen enough movies to know what this was. A black site. Undocumented. Off-grid. A place that wasn't supposed to exist. They parked beside a hangar door the size of a house. Another agent greeted them, tall, pale, wearing glasses and a lab coat over tactical boots. A strange mix. This him, the man asked. Hill nodded. This is Isaiah. The lab coat guy adjusted his glasses, eyes scanning Isaiah like a scientist inspecting a priceless artifact. It's true then. The records weren't falsified. Tara stepped in front of Isaiah, shielding him. You better not touch him. I wouldn't dare, the man said, raising his hands. But I do need to run diagnostics. Nothing invasive. Just confirmation. Confirmation of what? Isaiah asked. The man looked at him seriously. That your blood may be the key to unlocking a next phase of human resistance. You don't just survive exposure, you adapt it. Isaiah blinked. Exposure to what? Hill answered quietly. A virus. Not from here. We've been trying to understand it for years. Everyone it touches dies. Cells collapse. Organs shut down. It eats people from the inside out. Tara gasped. He was inside me when I worked at Fort Myers. Hill nodded. We think that's when the exposure happened. Accidental. But somehow it didn't kill him. Isaiah's voice was barely a whisper. It made me stronger? No one knows yet, the lab coat man said. That's what they want to find out. And that's why they're chasing you. They were escorted into the base, down long halls lit with humming fluorescent lights. Everything smelled like metal and sanitizer. As they walked, soldiers nodded respectfully at Isaiah's father, who'd already arrived hours earlier and was waiting near the main control room. His face lit up when he saw Isaiah and Tara. You made it. Tara ran into his arms first, grabbing him like she'd never let go. Isaiah just stared. You knew, he said. You knew what they did to me. His father's jaw tensed. I didn't know the full extent. I suspected. That's why I left the program. Why I stayed off the grid for so long. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want this for you, son. I wanted you to have a normal life. And if I'd told you what was inside you. Isaiah stepped back. Inside me. You're carrying something, Isaiah. A resistance that no one else on Earth has. And the people who created it, they didn't want a survivor. They wanted a weapon. Silence fell over the room. Tara's face turned pale. Weapon? What are you saying? Isaiah's father lowered his voice. I think Project Eden was never about healing the sick. It was about building immunity for one reason, warfare. They were trying to engineer soldiers who couldn't be killed by biological weapons. Isaiah's stomach dropped. And you think I'm one of them? You're not a weapon, Isaiah, his mom said quickly. You're my son. But his dad didn't deny it. He just put a hand on Isaiah's shoulder. You're more than a weapon. And that's what scares them. Later that night, after the medical scans, which were exactly as weird and high-tech as Isaiah expected, and after Tara finally convinced the doctors to let them rest, Isaiah lay in a bunk in a private room, unable to sleep. He stared up at the ceiling, feeling his heart beat too loud in his chest. They want me. They're not going to stop. And there's something inside me I don't even understand. Just then, the lights flickered. He sat up. The room went dim. Then pitch black. Then green. A faint glow lit up the far wall, his own reflection, flickering in what looked like a green projection field. And in it, he saw something glowing on his neck. A mark. It hadn't been there before. It pulsed with light. Slowly, Isaiah stumbled toward the mirror. The mark was shaped like a spiral, with lines branching outward like roots or circuitry. He touched it. It burned, but not painfully. More like heat that wanted to wake something up. The door opened. It wasn't his mom. It wasn't his dad. It was the man with glasses, the lab coat guy. But now, he wasn't wearing a coat. He was wearing black armor. Not military issue. Private. Corporate. And the symbol on his shoulder, the same one from the creature in the tunnel. Isaiah backed away. What are you doing in here? The man smiled. I came to offer you a choice. Isaiah's breathing quickened. You're with them. Yes, the man said calmly. But not the ones who hurt your mother. Not the ones who lied to your father. I'm with the ones who want to protect the future. Isaiah's fists clenched. By chasing me down with monsters? The man didn't blink. That was unfortunate. Miscommunication. I'm here now to correct that. Isaiah looked toward the emergency alarm. The man held up a small device. No use. I've disabled the comms. Isaiah swallowed hard. What do you want? to show you who you really are. Then he pulled out something small and glass-like. It looked like a USB drive, but it shimmered like liquid. He held it out. This contains your full file, Isaiah. Your genome. Your past. The project logs. Everything they kept hidden from your parents. From you. Isaiah stared at it. You can know the truth, the man whispered. Or you can keep running from it. The lights above flickered again. Alarms began to blare from the hall. They had been discovered. Time's up, the man said, pressing the drive into Isaiah's hand. Choose, Isaiah. Come with me now, and I'll unlock the truth. Or stay, and wait for the next wave of monsters they send. Because trust me, they're already on their way. Isaiah stood frozen in the green light of the alarm, his fingers clenched around the glass-like drive the man had just given him. Outside the room, boots pounded against the concrete floors. The alarm blared louder, then cut to a repeating robotic voice. Security breach. Level 3. Containment breach in Sector B. All personnel to lockdown stations. The man with the dark armor didn't flinch. Even now, surrounded by the sounds of his plan falling apart, he was calm, confident. I don't need to hurt you, Isaiah, he said over the sirens. That's never been the goal. Isaiah backed toward the far wall. His instincts screamed to run, to throw the drive away, to hit the emergency call button. But something about that man's voice, like he already knew what Isaiah would do, kept him still. I know what you're feeling, the man said. You think I'm the villain. That everyone who wears black armor is a monster. But your father's not telling you everything either. He left Project Eden because of what he saw. He thought burying the truth would protect you. What truth? Isaiah demanded. The man smiled, slow and cold. That you're not the only one. Isaiah's eyes widened. What? There were others, the man said. Children exposed just like you. Most didn't survive. One did. We call her Echo. And she's coming here now. He stepped back toward the door. She's not like you. She doesn't remember kindness. She doesn't have a mother. Another boom shook the walls. Echo is faster, stronger, and angry. She's coming for the file I gave you, Isaiah. That's why I brought it to you first. Because if she gets to it before you understand who you are, she won't stop until you're nothing but a burned-out cell. Isaiah's heart pounded. The man held up a small control device and whispered, One chance. Come with me now, and I'll protect you. I'll show you what Project Eden was really about. What you were meant to become. Isaiah stared at the drive in his hand. It pulsed faintly, like it was alive. Then, the door burst open. Isaiah's father charged through, rifle raised. Get away from him. The man with the dark armor smiled. I told you he'd choose, he said. Then, boom, he tossed a small smoke pellet to the ground. It exploded into a cloud of thick black fog. Isaiah's father fired a round, but the figure was gone, vanished like a shadow in smoke. Tara ran in behind him seconds later, coughing. Isaiah, I'm okay, he said, dropping the drive into his pocket. He gave me something. He said there's another like me. A girl. His father's face turned pale. Echo, he whispered. No, she wasn't supposed to be alive. Isaiah's voice trembled. He said she's coming here. His dad turned to the radio on his belt. Echo alert. She's inbound. Lock down all access points, now. The hallway roared to life with movement. Soldiers stormed through. Lights turned red. Barricades dropped from the ceilings. Who is she? Isaiah asked. His dad answered without looking at him. She was part of the same program. But they didn't raise her in a home. She was raised in a lab. They trained her like a weapon. Gave her no name. No family. Just orders. Isaiah swallowed. What happened to her? She escaped. 3 years ago. No one's seen her since. Until now. Suddenly, the entire base shook. It wasn't just an alarm this time. It was a strike. A hit so hard it knocked the lights out for 2 seconds. Then came the sound of metal tearing. And a scream. Inhuman, electronic, and angry. Ripped through the walls like thunder. She's here, his father growled. Isaiah's chest tightened. How do we stop her? His father turned to him, eyes heavy with fear. We don't. They raced through the base, past soldiers readying defenses, scientists fleeing deeper underground, blast doors sealing off entire wings. Isaiah clutched the drive in his pocket. Every step he took made the glowing mark on his neck pulse faster, brighter. It was like something inside him recognized her. Knew her. Tara kept glancing back, trying to stay calm. We need to get out now. If she's looking for you, we can't risk staying. But Isaiah stopped. No. His parents turned in shock. What did you say? Tara asked. We can't run, Isaiah said. If she's like me, if they did the same things to her, she's not just here for the drive. She's here because she hurts. Because she was left behind. You're not responsible for her, his dad said, stepping in front of him. She made her choice. No one gave her a choice, Isaiah snapped. Then, boom, the ceiling above them buckled. Concrete cracked. And then, she dropped through it. Echo. She landed like a ghost. Not a girl, not really. She was about Isaiah's age, but taller, leaner, with pale skin like glass. Her eyes glowed white-blue. Her veins pulsed with light. She wore a skin-tight suit of dark gray plates that shifted like living metal. Her mouth didn't move when she spoke. But Isaiah heard her. You have it. He stepped forward, slowly. You're Echo. You are what I was supposed to be. Behind him, his father raised the rifle. Echo didn't flinch. She simply raised her hand, and the rifle bent in the air like it was made of rubber. Isaiah turned. Dad, no weapons. She's not here to kill me. Echo's head tilted, curious. You feel it too. The mark on Isaiah's neck glowed bright gold. Echo's forehead lit up in response. The same mark. Isaiah reached into his pocket and pulled out the drive. Is this what you want? Echo stepped forward, but not in violence. In recognition. I need to see, she said. Then come with me, Isaiah said quietly. Not to them. Not to the ones who made us. To the truth. She looked at him for a long, heavy moment. Then she reached out and placed her hand over his. For a second, everything around them, alarms, soldiers, parents, blurred away. The lights dimmed, and Isaiah saw flashes in his mind. Her memories. Tubes. Needles. Voices behind glass. No names. No stories. Just commands. He saw himself, too. Smiling. Laughing. Being held. Two paths, from the same beginning. Echo stepped back, her hand shaking. They lied to me. Isaiah nodded. Me too. Then, a loudspeaker crackled. Unknown signatures converging. Incoming aerial drones. 5 minutes out. His dad turned. They're coming to erase all of this. Echo, the lab, the base. Everything. They won't let this leak. Isaiah's voice was steady. Then we don't run. We fight. No, Isaiah said, turning to Echo. We show them what happens when the experiment fights back. And in the red glow of the alarms, Echo, Project Eden's lost daughter, smiled for the first time in her life. The ceiling lights above flickered with static energy as Echo stood beside Isaiah, the two glowing marks on their skin now pulsing in unison, gold on him, blue-white on her, lighting their faces like fire and frost. Across from them, Isaiah's parents stood frozen. Tara's hand was gripping her husband's arm, eyes wide, staring at Echo like she was looking at something both terrifying and holy. His father, trained soldier, hardened warfighter, wasn't holding his weapon anymore. It lay on the floor at his feet, bent in half from Echo's power. She linked with you, he said to Isaiah, voice low, stunned. I've never seen her do that with anyone. She remembers, Isaiah replied. She remembers enough to want answers. But you still don't understand, Echo said, turning toward the dark hallway behind them. They're coming to erase us. Not just this base. You, me, your parents, everyone. She tilted her head like she was listening to something far away. They're already inside. Before anyone could respond, the walls of the facility shook again, harder than before, as explosions erupted from the north end of the base. The blast door in the hallway sealed shut automatically with a hiss of steam and metal locks, cutting off a line of soldiers. Red warning lights painted the corridor in a devilish glow. Boom. Tara cried out, grabbing Isaiah's arm. Enough of this, she said. We're leaving. I don't care about drives or files or any of it. We have to go. Isaiah turned toward her. If we run now, they'll just find us again. Every time. Until one of us ends up dead. Or all of us. But you're just a boy, she said, voice breaking. You're 12, Isaiah. He turned to Echo. And what is she? Echo looked down, quiet. I'm what 12 looks like without a mother. Isaiah faced his dad now. Can you get us to the mainframe room? His father's eyes narrowed. Why? Isaiah held up the drive. Because if this is everything they're trying to erase, then we upload it. Broadcast it. Blow the whole program wide open. You want to leak the most classified black site experiment in U.S. history? No, Isaiah said. I want to set it on fire. There was a pause. A long, Tense moment where even the alarms seemed to hush. Then his dad nodded once. Follow me. The five of them, Isaiah, Echo, his parents, and Agent Hill, who had caught up at the corridor intersection, moved through the emergency tunnels of the base. Echo walked ahead, clearing locked doors with a flick of her hand. Her presence made the facility itself react. Lights bent around her. Doors unlocked. Security cameras flickered out. She was like a ghost in a place that once owned her. The deeper they went, the more Isaiah felt the mark on his neck glow hotter, pulling him forward, until they reached the core room. A black, steel vault, 20 feet tall, guarded by biometric locks and an AI security system. Echo stepped forward. The sensors scanned her and instantly shut down the defenses. She's the key, Hill muttered. The vault opened. Inside was a room filled with servers, stacked from floor to ceiling, humming with information. On a central pedestal stood a console. And in the console, one port, glowing faintly. Exactly the size of the drive in Isaiah's pocket. He stepped forward slowly. Tara grabbed his hand. Are you sure? Isaiah looked at her, then at Echo. Yes. He inserted the drive. The room flashed with light. The screens all around them came to life. Thousands of files, videos, logs, spreadsheets, surveillance footage, images of children, test subjects, some barely older than toddlers, some in tanks, some unconscious, some gone. Isaiah's stomach turned. This is what they did, he said, his voice cracking. A siren howled over the speakers. Warning, unauthorized download. Emergency detonation in T-5 minutes. Echo stepped back, eyes wide. They booby-trapped the truth. Then we copy it first. Hill shouted, running to the terminal. I can route it to an external satellite. It'll send the data in bursts, packets. It'll reach at least 3 continents before they can stop it. His fingers flew across the keys. Isaiah reached for Echo's hand again. The moment he touched her, their marks fused, a flash of light, so bright it turned the room white for a split second. The power surged. Screens went blank, then came back online, flashing one word across every terminal. Unlocked. Echo gasped. Isaiah turned to her. What just happened? She looked at him in wonder. You woke it up. Then, the ceiling shattered. Drones rained down from above. Sleek, black, needle-shaped with rotating limbs. 3 of them. Then 6. Soldiers followed, dropping on ropes, their armor not marked by any flag. Private. Kill team. No warnings. Just laser sights, locked on Isaiah and Echo. His dad stepped in front of him, weapon raised. Agent Hill opened fire. Echo's body glowed, her skin turning luminous, veins lighting up like constellations. And Isaiah, he felt it too, like something ancient inside him was unlocking. His fingers sparked. The nearest drone fired. Isaiah flinched, but his hand shot out instinctively. A wave of gold energy burst from his palm, slamming into the drone and sending it flying into a wall where it exploded. Everyone stared. Echo smiled wide-eyed. You're ready. The other drones moved in, but now, Isaiah moved with her. He and Echo fought side by side, him blasting bursts of raw force, her bending metal like paper, turning drones against one another. Tara stood behind a pillar, tears running down her cheeks as she watched her child, her baby, light up like a burning star. Hill shouted over the chaos. Upload complete. Backups launched. Data spreading. They can't stop it now. Isaiah turned to his father. Then it's time to go. But the kill team had other plans. The commander, still standing by the vault door, pressed a button on his arm. And behind him, a second figure emerged, clad in heavier armor. Taller than Echo. Eyes glowing red. Not human. Oh my God, Tara whispered. Isaiah's dad paled. They made another one. The figure moved like a machine possessed. Not fast, instantaneous. It crossed the room in a blink and slammed Echo into the wall, pinning her there. Isaiah screamed. She tried to fight back, but this thing wasn't just stronger. It was empty. No emotions. No memory. Just power. Isaiah lunged to help, but the figure backhanded him, sending him flying across the room. He hit the wall hard, gasping for air. Echo looked over, weak. Run. But Isaiah stood back up, blood in his mouth, tears in his eyes, and a glow in his hands. I'm done running, he whispered. He raised both hands, and for the first time, the light didn't come out wild. It came out focused. He stepped forward and fought back. Isaiah's body was lit like a sunrise. Golden light crackled from his fingertips, arcing through the air like bolts of lightning, but it didn't lash out wildly like before. It listened. It moved with him, for him. He launched himself forward, landing between Echo and the monstrous soldier, pinning her to the wall. The creature turned, eyes glowing red, armor humming. Isaiah didn't stop. He slammed both hands into its chest, and the room exploded with energy. The force blast knocked the creature straight off its feet, hurling it across the chamber and into a stack of server racks that collapsed like a house of cards. Sparks burst in every direction. The lights overhead blew out with a pop, pop, pop. Isaiah stood in the middle of it all, panting, the mark on his neck burning like fire now, pulsing brighter and faster. Isaiah! Echo cried. He turned. She was bleeding from the mouth, one leg twisted wrong, but her eyes were clear. Awake. No longer hollow like before. Something had changed in her too. Isaiah ran to her and helped her stand. She gripped his shoulder tight, wincing. It's not dead, she whispered. The pile of servers began to shift. Metal crunched. Then, the monster rose. Pieces of its body were sparking, leaking black fluid. One eye was shattered, but it stood, silent and unstoppable. Isaiah's dad rushed to their side, holding a fresh rifle. We have to go now. It's still blocking the main exit, Isaiah said. How do we get out? Hill's voice came from the console behind them. There's a vertical shaft in the old launch silo behind the base. We sealed it years ago, but I can override it. You just have to get there. Tara appeared, pulling open a back panel in the wall. This way. Maintenance tunnel. The monster charged. Isaiah and Echo dove into the tunnel last, the wall slamming shut behind them as the creature's fist slammed into the steel. The echo of that impact followed them as they ran. It wasn't just brute strength they were racing against anymore. It was a countdown. 3 minutes. Hill's voice crackled in their earpieces. They set a dead man's switch when the files were transmitted. This whole facility goes thermal in 3. The tunnel was pitch black. They ran with only the pulsing of Isaiah and Echo's marks to guide them. Behind them, they heard it. The sound of tearing metal. The thing was coming. The tunnel ended in a ladder. Along, Rusty climbed straight up. Tara started up first, then Echo, then Isaiah. His dad covered the rear, weapon ready. The creature's voice echoed faintly from below. Not words, just static. It was talking in code. It was calling for more. More like it. Isaiah climbed faster. At the top, a steel hatch. Hill's voice came through again, panicked. 1 minute. Isaiah reached the hatch. It wouldn't budge. He pounded on it. Nothing. No, no, no. Then Echo placed her hand over his. The hatch glowed. Unlocked. They burst into daylight. The forest above was drenched in late afternoon sun. A chopper waited nearby, blades already spinning, kicking up leaves and dirt in a cyclone of wind. Hill stood at the landing pad, waving them in. Move, he shouted. Isaiah helped Tara in first, then Echo. His dad came next. Just as Isaiah stepped into the chopper, the creature burst from the ground. It launched itself out of the silo like a missile, landing just feet from the helicopter. Hill screamed, firing every round he had left. The bullets pinged off the armor. Isaiah turned, arms out. But Echo was faster. She stood between him and the monster, and then, without a sound, lifted her hand. The light inside her surged. A blue-white beam blasted from her chest, striking the creature full force. It screamed, not in pain, but in surprise. The light surrounded it, crushed it, and in one final burst of light and sound, it vanished. Dust settled. Only Echo remained, collapsed in the grass, barely breathing. Isaiah ran to her. No, 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 Echo, get up. She opened her eyes slowly. Her voice was faint, like a breeze. I finally beat them. Isaiah grabbed her hand. No, you're not done. You're free now. You hear me. Her hand squeezed his. Weak, but real. Tara and Isaiah's dad pulled them into the helicopter as Hill screamed at the pilot. Go. Now, the chopper lifted into the sky. Just as it cleared the trees, the entire base erupted behind them. A blinding column of fire and debris shot upward, swallowing the forest. Trees bent from the force. The windows in the helicopter shook. Isaiah watched the flames rise, then fade, then silence. He sat beside Echo, holding her hand. His mother held him from the other side, eyes closed, whispering prayers. His father sat across from them, staring out the window. A soldier who had seen war, betrayal, monsters, and now, his son lit with something more powerful than any weapon. Hill sat by the cockpit, bruised and quiet. Finally, Isaiah looked down at Echo, her head resting on his shoulder. He whispered, "Are you okay?" She opened one eye. "I don't know what okay feels like yet." And he smiled. "I'll show you." Because for the first time since this nightmare began, since the courtroom, since the tunnel, since Project Eden's name was whispered, they had survived, and they were no longer running. They were rising. They flew in silence for over an hour. The black helicopter carved its path through the open sky, cutting across endless forests, rivers, and mountains. The sun began to set, turning the world below into a painting of orange and gold. But inside the cabin, time felt frozen, heavy with everything that had happened and everything that still lay ahead. Isaiah sat with his arm around Echo. She had drifted off to sleep against his shoulder, breathing slow and shallow. Her face, for once, was peaceful. She looked like a regular kid. No glowing eyes. No armor. Just a tired girl who had fought too long and too hard. Tara gently laid a blanket over the two of them. "She's stable," she said softly. "But we need to get her help. Medical care. Rest." Isaiah's dad sat near the door, watching the horizon. "We've arranged a location," he said. "Underground. Secure. No tracking. Only a handful of people even know it exists." Isaiah looked at him. "How long do we hide?" His father turned to him. "As long as we have to." Hill stood beside the pilot, arms crossed. "We didn't just leak a file, you know. What we released was proof. Of everything. The program. The experiments. The deaths. The lies. And the survivors," Isaiah said, nodding toward Echo. Hill looked back at him, something unreadable in his eyes. "You've turned the world upside down, kid. It's not going to go quiet." They landed in the middle of a remote desert valley. There was nothing around for miles. No buildings. No roads. Just dust and cliffs. Until a massive slab of rocks split open with a hiss of steam, revealing a hidden elevator platform that lowered them into the earth. The facility below was colder than the last one. Older. Built like a Cold War bunker, but upgraded with newer tech. No guards. Just screens, computers, sealed labs, and quiet. They carried Echo to the infirmary, where a quiet woman in a white coat was already waiting. "You brought her," she said. Not a question. Tara nodded. "She saved us." The woman touched Echo's cheek gently. "Then we'll do the same for her." As they wheeled Echo away, Isaiah stayed behind, watching her disappear down the hall. Tara knelt beside him. "She's strong." Isaiah nodded. "I know." Later that night, after the base settled, after the noise of helicopters and alarms and explosions became memories that echoed in the walls of his mind, Isaiah sat alone in a small room with concrete walls and a metal desk. On the desk sat a screen. On the screen, the full Project Eden database. The decrypted version. The truth. Every file, every log, every test. And a blinking cursor, waiting for a command. Hill stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "You sure you want to do this?" Isaiah didn't look up. "They tried to bury everything. Hide her. Hide me. Burn every piece of evidence. That means this matters." Hill stepped closer. "If you push that button, the world's going to see it all. Not just the evil. Not just the monsters. But your face. Your name. Your family." Isaiah finally looked at him. "I'm not afraid." Hill smiled faintly. "You sound like your father." Isaiah placed his fingers on the keyboard. The cursor blinked again. Then he typed, "Public transmission, Project Eden. Status, final report. By Isaiah Matthews." And hit send. A soft tone confirmed the upload. The screen changed. And then, one by one, world news channels lit up with headlines. Breaking, Government Black Project exposed by 12-year-old boy. Child survivor reveals secret human weaponization program. Who is Echo? The girl the world wasn't meant to see. Project Eden cover-up cracked open. Leak files spark international outrage. Isaiah leaned back in his chair, breathing hard. His hands trembled. But he didn't regret it. He had exposed them. He had burned the secret. And Echo? She'd never be hidden again. That night, the world changed. By morning, protests had begun across multiple cities. By the end of the week, 2 high-ranking officials had resigned. By the end of the month, 11 secret labs were shut down, and dozens of whistleblowers had come forward. And Isaiah? He became the name no one could forget. Some called him a hero. Others called him a threat. A few even called him a lie. Until Echo appeared beside him in a quiet, recorded message shared with the world. I was made to destroy, she said, her voice low, her eyes shining. But I chose to protect. That clip reached over 80 million views in 24 hours. But for Isaiah, life didn't go back to normal. It couldn't. The world might have seen the truth, but the people who created the lies, they were still out there, scattered, watching, waiting. Isaiah now trained every day, alongside Echo, who recovered faster than anyone expected. They ran drills, practiced control, studied files from the drive Isaiah had unlocked. They weren't just learning about what was done to them. They were learning what they were becoming. Isaiah could feel it growing inside him. The energy, the connection. Sometimes at night, his mark glowed without warning. And sometimes, when he touched Echo's hand, he saw fragments of things, visions, shapes, names, places that hadn't happened yet. A future calling to them. One night, while sitting on the rooftop of the underground base looking up at stars through a hidden hatch, Echo asked, "Do you think there are more like us?" Isaiah looked up. "I think there are." Echo turned her eyes to the sky. "Then we find them." Isaiah smiled. "Together." But just as peace settled into the moment, Hill's voice echoed over the base intercom. "Isaiah, Echo, come to the command room. You need to see this." They rushed down, through quiet halls, into the central hub where screens covered every wall. On the main screen, a live satellite feed. A compound, burned, broken, bodies, and a symbol scorched into the ground. The same one on the black armored creature they'd fought. Beneath the image, a single caption. "They're not done." Isaiah's smile faded. He looked at Echo. Echo looked back. "Then neither are we." Isaiah stood before the screen, fists clenched at his sides. The compound in the satellite footage was still smoldering. Its roof collapsed, walls caved in, guards scattered like broken toys. And in the center of it all, that symbol, a spiral surrounded by jagged lines, burned into the dirt like a brand from hell. It wasn't just a warning. It was a signature. The black-armored faction was moving again. And this time, they weren't trying to hide. Echo stepped closer, her eyes glowing faintly as she scanned the footage. This was a detainment site, one of the shutdown labs. Hill nodded grimly. "We had it locked and decommissioned. Cleared out. No live experiments, no files left behind. Just a shell." "Then why burn it?" Tara asked, stepping into the room beside Isaiah's dad. "Why now?" "They wanted us to see it," Isaiah said. Echo tilted her head. "They wanted me to see it." The room went quiet. Isaiah turned toward her. "You think they're calling you out?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her face said it all. "Who's they?" Tara demanded. "Who's leading this?" "I thought we shut it down. Project Eden's been exposed. Their files are public." Hill exhaled through his nose. Eden was never one project. That was just one name. The black armored units, the experiments, the genome editing, it wasn't a single mission. It was a web. Private companies, defense contracts, rogue science groups, splinter cells. Isaiah's father added. When Eden went down, others took the data and ran. Isaiah stepped forward. "So they're building more." Hill clicked a button on the terminal, bringing up another video, grainy footage, shot by a drone. It showed a dark transport truck escorted by 3 black SUVs crossing into a snowy mountain range. Inside the truck, cages. And inside those cages, children. "They're not just rebuilding," Hill said. "They're harvesting." Tara's hand flew to her mouth. "No." Isaiah's voice cracked. "Where was this taken?" "Northwestern Canada. Near a decommissioned radar array. We lost the drone 5 minutes after this clip." "Jammed." Echo's eyes narrowed. "Then that's where we go." Isaiah nodded, already moving. "Suit us up." His father stepped in front of him. "Wait. You're not soldiers." Isaiah looked him straight in the eye. Neither was Echo. They made her one. And she still chose to save us. Echo nodded. "Now we save them." His dad hesitated, then glanced at Tara. She looked at Isaiah, really looked at him, and finally stepped aside. "I'll stay here. Help run intel. But if you're going..." She reached into her jacket pocket and handed him his father's old dog tags. They belonged to a man who thought protecting people was more important than following orders. "Sounds like you." Isaiah took them, his throat thick, then turned and walked with Echo toward the armory. They were given new suits, custom designed from remnants of Project Eden's tech, but rebuilt for freedom, not control. Isaiah's suit was sleek, flexible, jet black with gold circuitry that pulsed with his energy. Echo's was silver and soft as silk, shaped to move like her, quick and precise. Her veins glowed like stars through her skin when she focused. Hill led them to the launch bay. Transport's ready. Stealth capable. Fast. But once you hit the ground, we're on our own, Isaiah finished. Not completely, Hill said. There's something else. He opened a crate. Inside was a small sphere, no bigger than a baseball, hovering in midair. This is Vox. A prototype AI drone Eden built to observe you, Isaiah. Isaiah stepped back. They were spying on me with it. They never deployed it. I stole the shell and rebuilt it. It follows only your voice now. The orb hovered to Isaiah's side. A synthetic voice buzzed. Hello, Isaiah. Do you want to save the world today? Isaiah smiled. Yeah, kinda do. They launched at midnight. The transport soared low across the clouds, silent as a ghost. The terrain below turned from forest to ice, mountains looming in the dark. Inside, Echo sat cross-legged with her eyes closed, whispering words Isaiah didn't understand. He watched her. How do you stay calm, he asked. I don't, she said. I just pretend I'm not afraid. Until it feels real. Isaiah nodded. Me too. Then the lights on the ceiling changed red. Approaching target zone, Vox announced. They stood, stepped to the back of the plane as the ramp lowered. Beneath them, in the clearing below, a facility was half buried in the snow. Gray, silent, surrounded by fences and towers. And trucks. Lots of trucks. Isaiah narrowed his eyes. There's no movement. Echo tensed. It's too quiet. They jumped, landed in the snow with barely a sound. Vox followed overhead, scanning the area. The entrance to the facility stood open. Inside was darkness and silence. Isaiah's voice echoed. Is it abandoned? They crept through the halls, dark walls, cold floors, flickering lights. Then they found it. A chamber. Empty cages. Cold food trays. Torn restraints. And a message carved into the metal wall with something sharp. We took them. Beneath it, another line, written shakier. Tell the boy we'll bring him home. Isaiah stepped back, blood running cold. Me, he whispered. They took the kids for me. Echo stared at the words. No, she said. Not for you. Because of you. And just then, the building shuddered. A sound from below. Not above. Below. Isaiah turned toward the floor. And felt it. A hum. A vibration that matched the pulse in his mark. There was another chamber. Underground. He looked at Echo. We go down. They found a lift. Broken. They climbed down a shaft, deeper into the dark, until the air turned warmer. Strange. And then, they found it. A hidden lab. Still running. And inside, rows of tanks. Each one filled with green light and floating bodies. Children. Dozens. Suspended. Breathing. And at the far end of the room, facing them, a woman. Pale. Hair tied in a tight braid. Eyes like stone. She wore a long coat with the spiral insignia. Isaiah Matthews, she said with a smile. We've been waiting. Echo's hands clenched. The woman raised her hands slowly. You're special. Both of you. But you were never supposed to find each other. Isaiah stepped forward. Let them go. The woman nodded toward the tanks. We will. Right after you give us what we need. What do you want? She smiled wider. The final piece of the Eden genome. Inside you. Isaiah's eyes went gold. Echo stepped forward, her glow building. The lights in the lab began to pulse. Tanks bubbled. And then, a dozen black-armored units emerged from the shadows. Weapons drawn. Laser sights aimed. Echo's eyes turned white. Isaiah whispered to her. No holding back this time. And together, they charged. The first black-armored unit moved, fast. It raised a pulse rifle, fired. But Isaiah was faster. The blast never hit him. He caught it. The gold energy from his palms absorbed the shot, bent it, then flung it backward like a whip, straight through the attacker's chest. Armor cracked. Sparks flew. Behind him, Echo leapt into motion, silent and deadly. She spun midair, lifted by the light streaming from her body, and crushed a soldier's helmet with one swift kick before landing in a crouch beside Isaiah. They're using low-tier models, she said without even looking. Testing us. Isaiah wiped his sleeve across his mouth, eyes narrowed. Then let's give them a passing grade. The lab erupted into chaos. Pulse fire streaked overhead. Lights shattered. Tanks holding children trembled with every shockwave. The woman who called herself the director, calm, unbothered, walked backward toward a terminal behind the tanks. She tapped a sequence of keys as soldiers dropped around her. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," she said. "Do you really think this ends with you walking out of here?" "Yeah," Isaiah said, deflecting another blast and hurling a surge of energy that took out 2 guards in one strike. "Actually, I do." Echo launched forward, a blur of silver and light. Her arms split into metallic strands mid-flight, her body adapting, and slashed through another soldier's armor like it was foil. The remaining units hesitated. For the first time, they feared. But the director? Still smiling. "You have no idea what's really inside you, Isaiah," she said softly. "That mark? That glow? It's not just power. It's a key. A failsafe." Isaiah turned toward her. She tapped the final button. The lab floor pulsed beneath them. And suddenly, all the tanks behind her lit up. Glowing. Rumbling. "What are you doing?" Echo screamed. The children inside the tanks twitched. Then arched. Screamed. The air went cold. Isaiah's mark burned like fire now. Flashing, pulsing uncontrollably. "No, no, no," he shouted, gripping his chest. The director's voice echoed across the chamber. "Their cells are linked to yours. Your genome completes theirs. You can feel them waking up, can't you?" Isaiah's knees hit the floor. Echo rushed to him, grabbed his arm. "Stay with me." The children in the tanks opened their eyes. All at once, dozens of glowing eyes staring at Isaiah, as if they knew him, as if they were calling to him. "I can feel them," he whispered. "They're scared." The tanks began to crack. One by one, the director stepped away, toward a hidden door. "If I can't control them, then no one will." She reached for a detonator on her belt. But Echo was already moving. She crossed the space in a single blink and drove her fist into the console before the woman could trigger the charge. Boom. The console exploded in sparks. The director flew back, smashing into the wall. Isaiah forced himself to stand, staggering toward the tanks. "What do we do?" Echo said, stepping beside him. He looked at the children. Some were his age, some younger. All were trembling. "Set them free," he said. Echo pressed her hand to the control panel. The system resisted, then recognized her touch. One by one, the tanks unlocked. The green liquid drained, and the children fell forward into Isaiah's waiting arms. Then Echo's. Then each other's. They coughed, shook, cried. But they were awake, alive, and free. The director, bleeding and coughing in the corner, tried to crawl toward a side corridor. Her voice was weak, panicked. "You don't understand, they'll come for you now. All of them. You exposed everything. The ones behind Eden. They were just the beginning." Isaiah stood over her, glowing like dawn, arms wrapped around 2 of the children. "Then let them come." Behind him, Vox floated in. "Extraction inbound," it reported calmly. "Hill has rerouted a stealth jet to your coordinates. ETA, 5 minutes. Echo crouched beside the director. "You tried to erase us. And we became more." The director spat blood. "You think people will accept what you are? That they'll forgive what you were made from?" Isaiah looked back at the kids, his siblings in survival, in pain, in strength. "We don't need forgiveness," he said. "We need truth." The flight home was quiet. Isaiah sat in the cargo bay, surrounded by rescued kids, some sleeping, some watching him with wide eyes, like he was something more than human, like he was hope. Echo sat across from him, wrapped in a thermal blanket, one arm bandaged, her head leaning back against the wall. "You okay?" he asked. "Not really." He nodded. "Me neither." She looked at him with a ghost of a smile. "But I think we will be." Tara was waiting at the base when they landed. She ran straight to Isaiah, falling to her knees and wrapping her arms around him so tightly he could barely breathe. "You came back," she whispered. "You brought them back." His father stood beside her, proud. Hill stepped forward. "We've already contacted neutral medical organizations. The press will spin it. But the evidence is overwhelming. This time, the world has to act." Echo stood beside Isaiah. Tired. Changed. Whole. "You gave them a voice," she whispered. "And me, a name." He turned to her. "You always had one." She smiled softly. Then a small voice tugged at Isaiah's hand. One of the children, maybe 5 years old. Barefoot. Eyes glowing faintly. "Are we safe now?" the little boy asked. Isaiah knelt, wrapped his arm around him. "Not yet," he said. "But you will be." Months passed, and the world changed. New agencies were formed. Survivors protected. Laws were written. No more shadows. Isaiah didn't return to a regular life. He built a new one. A place where kids like him and Echo could train, grow, and learn to live in a world that once hunted them. They called it the Haven, and Tara ran it. Isaiah and Echo stood on a hill above the new home one evening, watching kids laugh and play below. "What now?" she asked. Isaiah looked up at the stars. "They said we were built to survive," he said. "But I think we're here to heal." She touched the mark on his neck, now dim, but still warm. "Then let's begin." And beside him, for the first time in her life, Echo smiled not from pain, but from peace. The wind rolled softly across the fields outside the Haven. Laughter rang out. Real, innocent, the kind that once seemed impossible for children born in tanks, raised in silence, marked by experiments and scars. Now they played under open skies, no alarms, no wires, no whispers in the dark. Just sunshine, grass, and second chances. Inside the main hall, Tara stood at a podium, facing an audience of allies, doctors, teachers, volunteers from every corner of the country. People who came not to observe the survivors, but to support them. She spoke with calm authority, a hand on her heart. These children are not threats. They are not experiments. They are not numbers on a file or weapons for someone else's war. They are sons, daughters, people, and we're here to make sure they never forget it. Applause followed, not because it was the right thing to do, but because it was true. Outside, Echo sat beneath a tree, reading a book someone had given her titled Wonder. She traced the words with a finger, mouthing each one, relearning the world she'd been kept from. Isaiah sat beside her. His suit was gone. His mark no longer glowed, but his eyes did. "You know," he said, picking at the grass, "if you'd told me a year ago I'd be here, free, safe, alive, I wouldn't have believed you." "Me either." They looked down the hill, the same spot where months earlier, they'd landed with rescued children and shattered hearts. It was different now. The land had been cleared. Gardens were growing. Laughter echoed from the dorms. A swing set had been built near the river. Peace had rooted itself in soil once soaked in fear. "Do you ever think about them?" Isaiah asked. Echo looked up. "The ones who made us." He nodded. "Sometimes, but not as much as I used to." "Me neither," he said. "I guess they thought if they controlled our birth, they'd own our destiny." Echo looked toward the horizon. They were wrong. Behind them, Tara stepped outside the building with Isaiah's dad. He carried a box under one arm. Isaiah waved them over. "What's in the box?" he asked. His father grinned, set it down, and opened it. Inside were dozens of letters. From all over the world. Some from kids who'd seen the broadcasts. Others from families of victims long silenced. Some simply said thank you. Tara handed Echo one envelope in particular. It was from a girl in Atlanta. Echo opened it slowly. Inside was a crayon drawing of a girl with bright white hair and a smile, standing beside another girl with braids. A simple caption above the picture. "You are not alone." Echo pressed the letter to her chest. Isaiah stood. "We built something real here," he said quietly. Tara nodded. "And they're still out there. Others like you. Scattered. Hiding. Waiting." His dad placed a hand on Isaiah's shoulder. "And when they're ready, they'll find you." Echo stood beside him. "I hope they do." Isaiah smiled at her, then at the sun dipping low over the trees. Not because it was ending, but because something new was beginning. For them. For Echo. For all the forgotten. And in that golden light, surrounded by hope and healing and everything they'd fought for, Isaiah finally whispered the words that carried more weight than any explosion, any file, any secret in the world. "We made it." And this time, he knew they really had.